Welcome to the Center for Transformation Institute podcast, where we are uniting therapists everywhere for personal and professional growth. Your journey starts here, at the place therapists grow.
Chris and Rebecca, it's so good to be with you two today.
Hey, Monica.
Hi, Monica. It's really good to be here.
So I'm excited about this conversation. I know I've known about you, Rebecca, for even longer than Chris, right? Because you worked with Life Model Works for quite a few years. So I'd see your name coming across the emails and people would say, "Have you met Rebecca yet?" "No, I haven't." But then this year we got even more connected because Chris and I needed to connect because you've been a therapist. So why don't you tell us, both of you kind of individually go and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and that kind of thing before we get into some of these other topics.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Hey, by all means, go ahead.
All right. So we live in Kansas City and we are very passionate about transformational work with other people. And I've had a career as a professional therapist, but also been bivocational in ministry. And anything having to do with hearing a story and watching people just go through the process of doing some hard work, also partnering with God, with others in a Christian context. That's something that is a huge part of my story. And my wife and I have collaborated we have other team members and partners. We've launched a nonprofit ministry called Hesed Discipleship Network. We have planted a church. We help plant other churches. We work with pastors and leaders. We're part of the KC Underground ministry here in Kansas City since 2019 when that thing launched. And we also have a counseling center called the Shalom Center that we also work with clients to help them how to live fully alive from the heart Jesus gave them in the context of an emotionally healthy community. That's something that's very much a huge part of our mission as we live those principles out at home as best as we can. And then we try to transfer that onto others. But basically we have a pug that we adore very much. Her name's Molly Kate. And my wife and I like to have a lot of fun. We are just two kids just trying to figure out life and help people along the way. So I think I'll take a breath on that. Anything I missed there, Rebecca Jo?
Yeah.
That encompasses a lot of what we do and what we're about. I do want to iterate, we are passionate about emotional health and healing. And I think God knew what he was doing when he put the two of us together, because it's been something that has started as just a small thing that has just developed into something really beautiful and impactful. So it's an honor to do what we do.
Yes, and you do a lot. I mean, you got the church, you got your energies over here in the church world. You've got your over here in the inner healing, therapy, counseling, biblical counseling world, and kind of juggling a lot, y'all. You're doing a ton for the kingdom. It's really impressive. And I know that I think, Rebecca, you emailed me and said, "Hey, my husband is wanting to get connected." And we talked and I was like, "Wow, Chris, like you've got this therapy background and you do the church world." And to me, that gets me really excited because that's kind of been my world too, with my husband in the past being a pastor and kind of being entrenched in the church world. And then also in the therapeutic world and learning about and psychology and such, to have both merge, I think is really appropriate and helpful. And so I just admire the work you're doing. I'm excited about it.
As we are a fan of
Thank
yours
you.
too, and solving
Yes, we are.
problems that you're solving to help many therapists and counselors come into deeper revelation of what the best tools out there. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
You're
it.
doing great work, Monica. We're very appreciative of it. It's exciting to see how it's developed over the years. From that little email from many years ago to now what you're doing. It's serving a lot of people.
Yeah, you may have been one of the first people I emailed back in the day, like, "Hey, is there a database of therapy?" us who love the life model, Rebecca.
We need one, Monica. Help.
That's right. I mean, I think that's one of the most amazing things about life model is like it's like this grassroots movement. It's biblical. I always want to disclaim that it's not like this. It's this, non or extra to the Bible thing. It's this biblical movement that is just people who get into it. It's like we catch a fire.
Yes.
And it's almost outgrown its infrastructure.
It's a great way to put it.
And so I think that those at Life Model Works, they're trying to keep up with the growth, and God is building up others around them, such as us, and a lot of other ministries and counseling practices who love the work and want to just kind of help to move things along, help the movement. And I do believe it's a supernatural work that God's doing in the world for such a time as this. There's a reason for all this, right?
Agree. Yes.
It's such an honor when the work that I do, when we lay a foundation and we train and we develop but then people begin to own it for themselves, become a practitioner or launch something or create their own contextualized, beautiful expression as God has wired people. I think that's amazing. You're right. We're coming into a season that with Life Model, it's gone from a lot of awesome books and information to now being translated with many practitioners starting to emerge, yourself, myself, and church expressions and counseling practices and all that stuff. It's just awesome. I'm sure Jim is just beside himself with appreciation and joy. So it's just quite a legacy. So
we were able to have we had a night of connection here after the local group when they came over to Raleigh, and we had a what they call a city event, I think is what. So I invited the team to come over. The executive team came over. So Wilder was there, and Marlene and Michael Henricks and
Michael Sullivan.
Sullivan wasn't able to come. He had to go back to Kansas City for a reason. And so he sat around. We invited local leaders. There were like 50 some leaders from our area who love Life Model as well. And Wilder told us, he said, the Lord told him, like when he was first working on this, he said, I don't know if anybody cares, right? He said, I don't know if anybody cares about this. And the Lord said, well, they might not right now, but 20 some years from now, they're going to. And sure enough,
here we are.
Right, here we are. We're like, it's like water for our souls. And so with that said, let's go ahead and kind of move into the first question I want to ask y'all. And that is, what is your story? Like, how did you come into Life Model? Rebecca, you're alluding to the fact that you've kind of found each other after you already found Life Model. So can you tell me a little bit of your personal journey with this, how you learned about it and how it came into be such an important part of your life?
When I first learned about it, it was my now husband, Chris Caputo, who handed me the Green Book, what we affectionately refer to. Affectionately refer to this as the Green Book because it has been updated now. That Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You by Jim Wilder and several other wonderful authors. And when he handed me this Green Book, it didn't look like much of anything, but he said, if you are really wanting to go far in your healing journey, this is the book you want to read. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I'll take your word for it. But boy, was he right. When I got into the pages of it, it was really something that I knew was different.
So you weren't married back then, but you were in a Bible study together, or you went to church together or something?
We were engaged at the time. We had been dating and we were engaged, and we would be married in about 5 months from that time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So he said, here, my future bride, read this book.
Yes. I was taking some different steps with my own healing journey. And he said, wow, she's doing some things. She needs to know about this. And I'm so glad he told me about it. But it was a difficult read at first. And I didn't know what to do with the information that I was reading, because it was exactly what had been missing in my own healing journey. But I don't want to get ahead of any of your questions, Monica.
No, please. I would love just to piggyback on that. How did you know there was something special about it? What was it? What was the moment?
It was the moment when I read the charts, the maturity charts with the 5 stages of development and maturity. When I read that, it gave concentrated language to concepts that had been elusive for years. And I had been on a healing journey of about 20 years of professional counseling from things that I had experienced as a child and adolescent. And those charts gave me a blueprint of healing, healing and community that honestly I didn't get in those years of therapy that I had been in. And the specific skills became a guidepost for me, for goals that I wanted to attain in my personal growth journey. So I had a blueprint for the first time.
So let's just hold the phone here. Let's just pause here. Let's just notice this, Rebecca. Let's just notice all these therapists you'd gone to for 20 years.
Yeah.
Who were professionally trained,
Mm-hmm.
were doing their best to help
Mm-hmm.
you, right? It wasn't that they had done a bad job.
No, they were wonderful. No.
Missing information that could have changed the whole game.
Oh, I was in my early 40s at the time. Yeah, I could have changed the game. It would have been amazing to have had that information 20 years earlier or 10 years earlier even, because that was when I really feel I started to do some axe to the roots healing, when I had those charts.
So if you could speak to therapists about this concept right now, mm-hmm. what would you say?
I would say, and now that I'm coaching women, I would say in all my years of coaching women, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't go after the information so much, or after the next book or that information in that book. I would say the information is wonderful, but knowing how to securely attach in a healthy relationship and healthy community would have provided such a place and a platform for my identity to come forth, for me to be able to discover myself and learn how to express who I was, yet alone, understand it. I would tell them, this information is wonderful, but it's not transforming me. What do I need to do outside of your office to give the information that you're giving me and make it real and live in my life out there in the relationships that I'm already in? I need that information. I need to know what that looks like. And with those charts, it's so simple and it's scalable, and it truly is a guidepost after another guidepost after another, and it just keeps building upon the previous guidepost and it's, when doing it in relationship, it's not heavy. It's not heavy. There's joy, there's love, there's secure attachment that just organically and naturally happens. So I hope I've answered your question.
Definitely have. Our tagline is, personal growth for professional outcomes, or something like this, right?
Yeah.
But that, even in itself, is such a simplified way to say what you're saying. Like, it's hard to fully explain, but there's something about becoming transformed so that you can pass on transformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So you can't go ahead.
You can't give away something you don't have. You can't give away something that you've not learned. And Jim Wilder talks about in the book, Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You. And I'm going to just touch on it and reference it. I'm not going to say it perfectly. He says, if we are wounded within relationships, we need to heal within relationships. We will find that healing within relationship.
That's so good. It's like the concept is broad, but there's something so enticing about it. This idea that we can heal. Our brains can actually reformat themselves
Yes.
from abuse, trauma,
Yeah.
neglect, all the different types of traumas that happen to us that have malformed our identities,
Yes.
the developmental emotional issues that happen to us can be reformatted. And life model kind of leads the way in helping us understand how to do this for ourselves so that we can pass it on to others. The brain is an amazing thing. It can do it,
Yes.
but we just have to know somebody has to start. Somebody has to know what they're doing and to be intentional with it. Oh, so well said, Rebecca. Thank you so much. And so, Chris, let's tag over to you. Like, what about you? What's your life model story? And at what point did it become something that you were like, oh, this is really special. This is something that I want to spend my life passing on.
Yeah, I cut my teeth with becoming a licensed addiction counselor, so I was in that field, and also part of my story is connected to that. That's which I came out from in my meeting Jesus, and so I had a passion for that. And the thing was that I was helping a lot of people, but the problem was like, all right, so I'll stop before I get to that. I met Life Model. I met the book Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You in about the year 2007. I was leading a prayer group. I was part of a prayer ministry here in Kansas City. I moved here for that, and in that stream of the body of Christ, and I just noticed a whole lot of struggle with community, and I noticed a whole lot of, you identify stuff, you're clinical, you can always kind of see the stuff, and then when I read these principles, I'm like, oh, this has been said often, this is the missing piece. When I read the book, when I saw the charts, when I saw that God was not unilaterally going to heal a certain type of trauma, which is the absence of good things that we need, we did not get, only that God will partner with community to see that happen. That really blew my mind away, because I was like, oh, because I was always told, just go, God will take care of it, he'll heal it, and everything will be fine. The problem was my brain was still wired in certain ways where I needed other bigger brains than me in certain areas to learn how to come out from that. So Life Model gave me language I didn't learn in my master's degree training, my master's level clinical training. And plus I can only attach so far clinically. It was very limited because as a licensed professional, I can't go home and do life with this and just start creating communities with people. It broke my heart. There was just too much of a disconnect from the work that was being done in the office versus what happened outside of the office. So when I read the book, I was like, oh my goodness, this is that. This is like that one piece that if this doesn't get integrated into the holistic care of someone, starting with myself, by the way, which is a huge factor. What you both were talking about, it's hard for me to really replicate something I haven't fully integrated into myself. That was key. So trying to think. So that was kind of like my life model big moment. Like, gosh, almost 17 years ago, and I've been on that journey ever since. So
Ever since, and that's, I think it's so interesting too. I mean, you've been at it a lot longer than I have, and even Rebecca, it sounds like. I came across the model in 2015, I think, 14, 15, and I haven't lost any passion or momentum. Like, it is equally even more exciting to me now than when I was first learning about it.
right.
So it's kind of incredible how many of us there are that are like this, that it's like it's life. It's helping us live fully alive like Christ, helping us figure out who it is who we're supposed to be on the earth, and how to get into a healing stream so that we can be more fully that. And then building up community and belonging around us that is life-giving to all involved.
Right. That's correct. It's
Right?
beautiful.
And we can do it for the rest of our lives. Like, and then it's going to live beyond us. I do think it's the Great Commission. It's like, this is how we spread the gospel. It's life on life, and heart to heart, person to person, mind to mind, and all those things. So as we continue this conversation, I think where we are right now flows right into what's next. And maybe you've kind of answered this, but maybe there's some more you could say in terms of, how has this model impacted you personally? what are some of the big changes, differences, transformations that you've seen in your life that you wouldn't have had without this guidance?
You want to go ahead?
Yes, I would love to talk about that. For me, the biggest gap for me personally, I've been on my own journey of learning to self-care and identifying what I need and actually even knowing how to ask for it. I didn't know how to ask for what I needed, and learning what brings me life, learning how to live from my heart, and also learning how not to betray myself. Those have been really big gaps for me. And in using the life model principles, it launched me into being able to do those things a little bit at a time, because small is big here when you're on this type of a journey. And before that, I just felt lost. It was like it being in a fog. But again, having those guideposts and having that roadmap, I could actually say I've got some goals to set because I know what I need to do, because I can identify where my gaps are and what needs to happen for those gaps to start being filled. Because I already know the end result. I'm not able to do these things, or I do these things that I shouldn't be doing that I could really be better at. And it's not about judging yourself. It's about just identifying gaps that should have been filled many, many years ago when we were growing up. And for me, it's learning self-honor, self-respect, self-care, and not being this people-pleasing, codependent person that attracts a lot of narcissism in my life. Narcissistic relationships has been very transformative, very healing, and it has been nothing but fruitful in many ways on many levels.
Great. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. That's a beautiful testimony. I love that. Thank you for sharing all of it. It's truly, I liked what you said about small is big, right? It's like slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
And I think these maturity charts, maturity checklists they're tangible ways that we can connect to our own life experiences. But it's not just information or left brain. It's more this application and feeling our way through it to go, this is what I had, but this is what I want. And our emotions and our psychological world can really guide us with the presence of God into this fullness. So I love hearing it. Thank you so much. Should we tag Chris in? Hear what he has to say.
Okay. Tag me in. So I would say, if you're a counselor, therapist watching this, if you go through those charts, audit yourself, find the biggest glaring one. And that's kind of where my journey, at least in the last number of years. So two things for me was doing hard things, because I'm a dreamer. I am a big vision guy. I have great ideas for everybody else's stuff and it hits, but I can never really get much forward momentum. I never really was able to build anything sustainable. I was never able to do the hard things. That's the second one, by the way. Actually, doing the hard things that were required of the discipline to be able to create something beyond myself, that I can oversee, that I can pass on to others, that's transferable and sustainable. Those were things that were just so elusive to me because I wasn't trained in that growing up. But I needed to learn that in my child stage of my development. I just didn't. And I've been, because of having focus on it, having people in my life that had strength in that, I watched how they did it and they encouraged me. I was able to kind of grow up into that skill. And now that I have mastery, you said I've got a lot going on. Well, guess what? It's not overwhelming me. I actually have the capacity and the strength to be able to I was able to do one thing pretty well. Now I can do a couple things because I know how to do the one thing. So that's just one example. Another one is shame. The other half of church talks about toxic shame and how to, as a man especially, that was a devastating lack of a skill for me to be able to act like myself when I felt ashamed as a little boy. And from what I grew up with, not to dishonor like family members, but it was not an easy time for me. And just being shamed for a long time. And that really left a mark where that's something as from the infant, when I was from up to 3 years old, I was supposed to learn how to return back to myself when I felt those emotions. The fact that I didn't, it caused so much that led to addiction, suicidality, all these other things. And then I got clean and sober, but then still I still would avoid those things because I didn't have the community or the maps of other people's brains who did shame pretty well to train me how to now. I'm helping people how to overcome their shame in a sense, but I never really fully received that for myself. And once I was able to, then my clinical practice, my coaching, everything it's just so colored in such a different way now. I can actually be fully present and present with people in a way from a deeper authenticity that's releasing power, that's helping them to accelerate and get there quicker. So those are kind of two of the big ticket items for me. If I were, revealing myself here before the audience, and,
Yes.
as a counselor, we need to be transparent with some of our own stuff, not to share that with the client necessarily, but to know our own journeys of what they're going to go through when we launch them into how to get healed and whole. Read those charts, read that book, get into Monica's materials, learn about this. How do
Yes.
you integrate this into your own, to contextualize it for your own practice? You got to have it first. I
Right.
can't give you the oil, Monica. I can't just like distribute it to you. You got to go get it yourself with God and with the community to then be able to replicate and transport that in a
That's
way that's
well
effective.
said.
So
Yes, that's really well said, Chris. I mean, what we are experiencing with you right now is your awareness of yourself allowed you to kind of launch into this path, right? Where you're able to access information and experience that then went right to the heart of the needs that you had,
right.
so that you could you facilitate this healing. And so I think the last question in these last couple minutes that we have, the last question is, how have you seen that affecting people that you're working with? How have you seen what you've experienced impacting others?
So the fact that I've identified my biggest, weakest parts of my maturity gaps and able to build strength in that it's not so much the strengths that I carry clinically. Those areas as well have now amplified the strengths that I have. So what that means is that the people I have passion working for, usually there's a reason. And if you're a therapist, been around for 5 minutes, you realize the journey is about you too. And when you really want to help people, it's almost a clarion call for us to go deeper in some of that our own work. So the deeper we can go in our own work is to the degree of effectiveness. I believe I can be challenged on that. That doesn't mean you have to have the exact story of somebody else, but people want your perspective. And if you come from a place of wisdom and experience and overcoming, it just by you being with them, they will be able to get there quicker because you know the obstacles that are ahead. So I would just say, read the book, read the information, and and just really learn how to presence and attach with people. If I were to keep it really simple, I'd say learn how to return someone back to joy. Learn how to validate and just sit, instead of we're so solution oriented. We get paid to help them get fixed. Really, but just by being with them, I'm throwing the number 80-90% is us attaching well to them. But you got to know within your clinical boundaries, you got to be able to work with that. But you got to learn how to attach well when you're out of the office too, to know how to do that dance, to not go too far or not enough. So if we're just with people attached, that does so much healing for people. When they leave, they're able to have capacity to
You're
do
seeing
more.
it. You're actually seeing it happen with the people.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Without question.
It's
But to the degree I'm doing my own work is the degree it's multiplying with my clients.
you see it with
Yep.
just your own eyes.
Families, work, the way they're able to do things they couldn't do before in just a few months. I mean, it's happening quick.
This is right brain psychotherapy, right? This is like, I'm not belaboring this and slowing down the process because I'm just trying to transfer this information. I am being transformed.
Absolutely.
And he is
Well,
just,
I wouldn't say it's even talk therapy, psychotherapy. It's right brain. It's right brain. Just there's no words on the right. It's just being, and
yes,
you're becoming brighter. You're becoming more mature emotionally. Your
yes.
EQ is going way up. So you can easily replicate that just through attaching.
Just, yeah, exactly. So it's like, I tell people, like, you go in the grocery store and somebody's going to experience the presence of God. You aren't even going to have to say anything because
That's right.
you're becoming
right
a
here.
conduit. It's
Yeah.
information. It's on the face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been great to talk with you all today. What a blessing. Thank you so much. And Hesed Discipleship Network, Shalom
Center. Shalom Center.
The Shalom Center. Check you guys out. It will be in the bio, and we'll have links and all of that. So, and I know we'll be in touch again soon, but thanks so much for being a part of this today.
Thanks so much, Monica. This has been great.
Blessings.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Place Therapists Grow. We hope you will join us again next week. To expand your knowledge and continue your growth journey, go to cftinstitute.com and take our introductory course to find out how the life model can enhance your life and your clients' lives too. We look forward to continuing to learn and grow with you. See you next time.